You're listening to The Bird Bath. Welcome back to The Bird Bath. Each week we scrape the surface of the news you need to know, so let's get into it. Our top story this week comes from a group that I've always been a fan of and people that are doing some really cool stuff in the industry, which is Rue. And better than just me telling it, I actually have a very cool guest for us. Charlotte Weir's the VP of Partnerships at Rue. And Charlotte, welcome to the show and tell us what's going on. What does Rue have for the listeners today?
Ryan, thank you so much. Super excited to be here. So, in case you're wondering what is Rue up to, well, we've decided to build an entire community of learning and sharing. I think really we saw like two opportunities. First, there's incredible education in the veterinary med field, but access to it isn't always equal. So it can be expensive, travel, takes time away from your patients, family, and you're already super busy in this profession. So those barriers, actually do matter. And Rue saw a bigger opportunity. Our mission has always been about empowering veterinary professionals to build careers that work for them. And we started creating more flexibility around how and when people work, but career empowerment really can't stop at scheduling. People want to keep learning. They want to build confidence, develop new skills, explore areas of medicine, become stronger leaders, continue advancing through their careers. So with vet med changing faster than ever, the old model of education, kind of traveling out, paying for access, taking time away, doesn't really fit. So it felt like a natural evolution of Rue to say, what if we could support not only how veterinary professionals work, but how they grow, like take that next step? And what if we could bring incredible education and career development to the entire veterinary profession at no cost?
All right, so I guess I'm getting old in the field, but Rue has been around for what feels like quite a while. And when I think of Rue, I think of relief staffing and a place where people go to find that extra help in the clinic or to find new and unique career opportunities or ways of working. How does providing CE really sort of fit into that idea?
Well, I think it's about that like natural extension to supporting the veterinary professionals in our field. So again, if we're asking how can we give vet professionals more control over how they work, that was 7 years ago. That was the question Rue answered in building our platform. But today we're asking how can we help them build a career they want to stay in? Because we're seeing so much burnout, we're seeing so much noise around, articulation, like everything's leaving. How do we keep professionals in this field knowing that they love the field they're in? So that's where seeing career development can have just such a bigger impact. And we have a community that is just like asking for it. We've had record turnout at our webinars, record turnouts at our live CE, and we like to have fun. I mean, that's vet med. It's a whole community. And our job is to make professional growth easier to access, not harder.
So do people have to be Ruvovians, Ruvenites, Ruvartians? Is it for everyone or is it for those people on the platform?
All right, here's what's really cool about it. You don't have to be a Ruvenite. I liked that one, Ryan.
Ruvenite. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to run with that for you.
TM.
Yes. One of my favorite parts of what we're building isn't just a veterinarian platform either. This is for the veterinary profession. Veterinarians need great clinical education and techs need opportunity to expand their tech skills and grow their careers. But practice managers and hospital leaders need to develop leadership, communication, ops, managing teams. These paths are just not identical. So I think what's super cool is believing in education that recognizes who the learner is. And that's what we're really trying to accomplish. And it's for everyone. Vets can take deeper dives into cardiology or feline medicine and techs clinical skills. Managers can decide they want to become a better leader, how to navigate an incredibly difficult conversation. But we want all of those people, everyone in vet med, to be able to come to Rue and find something that feels like it was actually built for them and their own individual professional journey.
Okay, so for everyone, completely free.
Free.
Fun. Cool name. Great color. Mm-hmm. Where do people go to find out more about this or actually to take advantage of some of these courses?
Super simple. Roo.vet. ROO.vet.
I'm going to link it, but I think people can figure it out from there. Awesome. Well, Shar, thank you for joining us. If you guys want to learn more, make sure to go into the link in the show notes, and we will find more and more fun topics to cover on this. And Shar, we'll hope to have you back on the show again soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Charlotte for joining us and for Rue for bringing some academics and some education. But I thought let's continue on the education storyline here. Kids are going back to school, and I guess they're not really kids, but students and budding veterinarians are heading back to school, and so are my 4-year-olds. But roughly a third of the leaders at those vet schools have changed in the last 18 months. That's right. A third of all U.S. vet school deans have transitioned from being internal people out of those dean roles or being at a different college and moving to a new university. So the most recent one is Florida has named Chris Aiden as the dean just last week, and he starts September 4th. So kicking off the school year very quickly. He was already there as an executive associate dean after Dana Zimmel retired earlier this year. We also saw Cornell hire internally last month. Jessica McCart took over in July, and she had a long experience within Cornell. Kansas State hired Annette O'Connor out of Michigan State starting at the beginning of this month. And the reason why that K-State job was open was because Bonnie Rush left to go to Texas A&M in August of last year. She'd been K-State's dean since 2017. So Texas A&M pulled K-State's dean, K-State pulled from Michigan State, and everyone's sort of spinning around. But someone new in the mix is from Oklahoma State. Richard Prather was a 40-year private practice veterinarian at Ellis County Animal Hospital, and he stepped up to take on the role of the deanship at Oklahoma State. Now, that's really interesting because, like we're talking about, a lot of these people are academics moving from one academic role to the next, and this is a actual practitioner stepping into a university that draws a lot of rural practitioners. So another role that was filled was Tuskegee made Ebony Gilbreth the permanent dean last October after she had been in the interim role. Now, it's not just the long-standing universities that have deans shuffling in and out. Lyon College, which is a new university, has brought in Carolyn Henry, who is the former Mizzou dean, effective in March. Eleanor Green, who is the founding dean, is staying on for help along the university. And Arkansas State just did their first white coat ceremony this month with their new dean. Roseman in Nevada had announced their dean. We covered that. And Utah State's Dirk Vanderwall opened a new building this summer and is planning to double the class to 80 people. There's new deans at Midwestern. And you know what? The thing here, if you're looking at the pattern, is that these aren't people that haven't done the role before. These are deans that retired and have been brought back to kick off and really reinvigorate these programs that are starting from scratch. Now, LSU and quite a few other schools have open positions. LSU, Tufts, Washington State, Rocky Vista, and Billings are all looking for deans as they're going into the new year. So Oliver Garden stepped down at LSU. Alistair Cribbs stepped down at Tufts. Washington State's dean is retiring in spring of 2027, and they've kicked off a national search. And Rocky Vista is kind of the one that most recently is starting the seeding here. They're expecting to have their new class starting in the next year, but the deanship is still up for debate or up for roles and applications. They're closing the application process September 4th, so you still have time if you're probably a former dean, let's be honest. That's the best way to go about getting into a current deanship. But tons of new people are jumping in and moving around across the university. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting just to see where that continues to change. It's also a very interesting idea as we talk about the shifts and changes of how that education is happening, but we aren't seeing new, fresh blood coming into the roles. So is that an opportunity for additional education to be happening external to the universities? Is that a time when we're starting to see different generations of students reach outside of the textbooks for the ways that they're trying to learn? And will these new deans or these old deans in new roles be able to keep up with what the students are really asking for? Now let's wrap it up this week. This week I'm kind of doing like couple stories, but with big trend lines through them. And the one that you cannot miss is New World Screwworm. I know we've talked about it a few times, and obviously this isn't the ag bath. That would be a completely different show. But the bird bath here, we're still hitting on what's going on with the New World Screwworm. Being in Texas, it's one that's right on the border and even crossing the border, but it is making some big headwinds so far in August. The first ever screwworm case in Sonora, Mexico was reported for a 5-year-old cow right where the Sonora and Chihuahua and Sonora states meet. And the difficult thing about this is Douglas, Arizona, which is the southernmost port for cattle, bison, and horses to move in from Mexico, was set to open August 24th, which is the day we're recording. And the report was supposed to be bringing something in here, but there's an idea that maybe they could be pausing it. So the issue is that we were thinking that a lot of the actions that were happening were making things a lot safer. Mexico had responded by inspecting over 5.3 million head of cattle. They've looked at 84,000 shipments of those cattle since November of 2024. They just opened their new sterile fly plant in Chiapas. So a lot of things are happening, but we're starting to see it come into the U.S. So there's been about 5 active cases since mid-August in Texas and New Mexico. And the U.S. side of things, we're flying over 1,000 drone flights, and 56,000 plus wildlife have been surveyed by the USDA and by a lot of different agencies across the country. So it's something that we could see these cattle coming in, but the U.S. is not wanting to take the risk of introducing more New World Screwworm. Now, when they do cross the border, because as we've talked about, guys, flies don't know what borders are. The FDA is hoping to do a little something alongside Zoetis. They have given emergency use authorization to treat New World Screwworm with Simparica Trio from Zoetis. So this is not a full approval. It is purely based around the emergency declaration, and it's a treatment, not a prevention. So the big thing here is that the patients that are in a situation where they maybe have that screwworm that's been detected on them now can utilize the Zoetis product Simparica Trio to treat that. Abhay Nayak in the press release said it's an important new tool in the fight against a devastating parasite. And really, if you have not looked into what actually happens with this fly, which is called a worm, which is confusing in and of itself, but it's something that on a small companion animal you're going to see. You're going to understand that it's there, but when you're looking at tens of thousands of heads of cattle, it's not as available or something that you're going to see as quickly. So it's something that we're hoping to find ways to be able to understand and tackle this pretty quickly. And it's something that the quick spread of these worms or these flies or this New World Screwworm from one animal to the next happens extremely quickly. Now, the ASPCA is kind of our third piece in this same story, and they're putting some real money behind the shelters to try and stop the spread of it in the shelter medicine. So the ASPCA has put out up to $500,000 in emergency grants. Applications are open now through the end of October and rolling until the money is gone. So if you're running a shelter, you need to go ahead and get out there. So what they're offering per organization, they're offering up to $45,000 for the prevention and treatment medications, up to $5,000 for veterinary supervision, and up to $750 per animal for assessment and treatment. And you just heard about what one of those potential treatments is. So any shelter and rescue in USDA designated infestation zones and adjacent states, so not just the zones, but the adjacent states, can work with this. You must have a contractual or employer relationship with a supervising veterinarian, and it can go towards helping dogs, cats, and equines. The ASPCA is framing this as tackling this treatment really quickly, where you have a lot of animals that, frankly, sometimes can't always have as much hands-on attention as they would in home. And they're saying that this fast treatment inside shelters significantly reduces the number of potential hosts the parasite can live on. So if we can tackle this from within the shelters, within the borders, within the cattle, and with a new and unique authorization for a drug to be able to treat this, hopefully we can keep this at bay as the sterile fly breeding continues to ramp up and hopefully eradicate the fly once again, as it did many, many years ago, and as it continues to push across the border. So this is going to be something I'm going to keep my eye on. I'm going to be at the Casey Animal Health Corridor Summit this coming week, and I know it's going to be something very interesting to talk about with the dairy farmers and with the ag world and the people in that sense. So if you're going to be in Kansas City next week, make sure to say hi. It's going to be a really cool and interesting topic to explore a little bit more of, and I'm really interested to see how people are seeing it firsthand in their own practice, in their own development of drugs, and how they're trying to tackle this. And for more on these and other stories, join us by subscribing to our Substack. There's a link in the bio. And don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing and rating the show. For the Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.